Happy Monday, everyone. It's today's take with the market mindset here, where we talk everything energy, mining related, and the opportunities that are out there. And very happy to have Executive Chairman of Regency Silver, Bruce Bragagnolo, with us because a number of things. A very interesting background, a lot of success. And we like to have people on who can kind of share their story as to like why they even got involved in mining, how they got involved in mining, and especially when they've had a couple of wins under their belt. What was that like in different periods of time? And also, what's that mean for what they're working on right now? And I think right now, especially with their project being in Mexico, with Bruce having a lot of experience in Mexico, there's a lot of misunderstanding about Mexico and a lot of assumptions, which I won't say is that far to say because I mean because the political climate we have all around the world, people are very, very quick to look at things and get a little nervous. But maybe Bruce will kind of ease some of those fears, and we'll talk about some of the facts and some of the things out there and some of the opportunities. So Bruce, real pleasure to have you. And once again, sorry for some technical difficulties we had on our end here as well, but we're real excited to get going here and chat with Bruce.
Hey, Andrew. Thanks.
Good to have you. Well, we're thrilled to have you here. And like I said, you've had a long, very successful mining career. Like, let me just start off with the kind of a boring question, but it's like, what drew you to mining? That's one of the questions that people always ask is, how did you even get into this?
Well, it's funny, you know, when you grow up in Timmins, Ontario, and you're surrounded by head frames everywhere, you're kind of drawn into mining. Everybody, when I was a student, everybody had a summer job working in the mine. That was about the only summer jobs that were available to us. So you get a start in it immediately. And just there was a lot of wealth generated by the Timmins district. If you go to look at the board of directors of Maple Leaf Gardens when they built it, that money came out of the gold mines of Timmins. So it's always been a real theme for the economy in Timmins. I've seen what it can do for an economy once you get started with a good mining sector. And I'll tell you, back then, I don't know what their cost of production was, because when gold was at $32 or $35, they were still making a lot of money there. So I guess their cost of production was probably $1 or $2 an ounce.
It's crazy to think, and now we're up at what, 1,400 or so, rough. Well, depending on which company where you are.
Yeah, I mean the cost of production is probably it's north of 1,200 anyway.
Yeah.
So we still need to see higher prices to get those margins up to double the cost of production. So we're probably in the $3,000 range to get to that. We're probably getting close to it right now for most mines, but really it's all about the margins at the end of the day. It's the price is important, but it's all about margins.
And we'll jump into this too, like some of the technology and some of the changes that have occurred to help bring the cost down in mining overall. And also we'll kind of touch on your take on where you think precious metals are going. I mean, your company's called Regency Silver, but you've got gold, you've got copper, you've got silver, and you've had very, very great gold grades. And this isn't just to talk about the company, but we want to get a sense of who you are, the success you've had, what mining can do. And I mean, one of your first companies was called what, Timmins Gold?
Timmins Gold. Actually, my first one was Continuum.
Okay.
And that became the San Jose mine down in Oaxaca. We merged that company with Fortuna Resources, and that's been their flagship mine for a long time. And then we had Timmins Gold as well as Silvermex Resources. So each one of these companies has become a mine. Timmins Gold probably had the biggest market cap at $475 million US. And we listed that on the New York Stock Exchange back in 2011. Silvermex was a big success. We sold that to First Majestic and then Continuum. So, all Mexican mining properties. I really like Mexico. I know it's had a bit of bad press recently, but they are looking at reforming the current mining law. They realized that it's not workable, and they're going to make probably fairly drastic changes to the mining law there. And there was talk about banning open pit mining. There was never a real grassroots movement for that. And as a matter of fact, the biggest mines in Mexico, two of the biggest mines are copper mines. You have Cananea, which is the biggest mine in the country, And then you have La Caridad, which is the second biggest. And those are both open pit copper mines. You can't shut those down because there's a massive copper fabrication industry in the north of Mexico City where they make copper tubing, copper pipes, copper fittings. You couldn't shut that down. So any talk of banning open pit mining is just somewhat ridiculous.
Yeah, see people getting hypersensitive when they see any mention of anything. And it really seemed to, at least from my point of view, that last year when there was even any mention, everyone got nervous. And I think, and we're going to get into this, I think all the evidence is pointing that it was a wrong assumption and that pragmatism is going to win over any kind of ideology or any rumors. And that's what makes Mexico in general a huge opportunity right now. Because, I mean, mining is such a big factor of their base anyway. It's a big flow of our capital, Canadian money, into Mexico too.
Well, that's right. I mean, I think 3% of their GDP is derived from mining. There's a wealth of minerals in Mexico. And the nice thing there is you get a lot of bang for your buck. You can explore on the surface, whereas you can't do that in a lot of Canada.
Yes.
You can get road access to your properties in Mexico, whereas you can't do that in a lot of British Columbia, for example. You have to have helicopter support. You know, we can drag the drill in to site. Actually, we can drive the drill into site. So road building is easier. Permitting for drilling is easier. There was some talk about, like I said, there was a rumor that the former president wanted to ban open pit mining. That wasn't an ideological position on his part. It was just something that kind of struck his fancy on a particular day.
Yeah.
And then it was in the 100 points that the new government wanted to accomplish during their presidency, and that's been removed from that 100 points. So all the indications are that they're going to open up the mining sector and streamline their processes to make it easier to get permits and to build mines in Mexico.
And that'd be, I mean, we need that here as well, but that'd be fantastic for Mexico. And I mean, for my 2 cents as well, like for the copper situation, that's huge, you know, as well as just silver. I mean, if you want to create the solar panels that China is creating at a massive rate, that's a lot of silver. And Mexico's responsible for a lot of silver.
Yeah, there's a real deficit right now from what I'm reading. There's a deficit in the silver market. We should see silver should be at least $50 right now. Let's face it. So there's some catching up to do just to catch up with the gold price. So I think any manipulation in the market is kind of unwinding right now. So we should see higher silver prices and higher gold prices overall.
Yeah. What do you think overall? I mean, not price wise, but what do you expect for 2025? Like, I imagine you're probably pretty bullish overall on the commodity for copper, gold, silver.
Well, absolutely. I mean, we've seen a couple of years here where, it's been a little difficult in the market. And I think we've got a lot of catching up to do as far as gold price. I mean, my old estimate of the gold price was at least $3,200. And that's without inflation. So I think now you can revise that dramatically upward. And silver's got a ton of catching up to do. So I'm very bullish on the commodities. Copper appears to be in a deficit as well. And then if you get any kind of rotation out of the big board into commodities, then we're going to see the lid come off of the stocks as well. So we might need to see that rotation, but that should be coming as well, given the valuations of the big board stocks and the NASDAQ. Then we should see some money flowing into this sector. And when it does, let's face it, it's a very small sector. It'll get a real lift.
That's the painful side, but also the kind of the huge upside or asymmetric possibility is that like it is a fraction of what you'd hear like a Bitcoin or something like that gets all the flavor of the last month. Sooner or later, that money needs to find some safety and some common sense and some reality. And that flows back into commodities often, because I would say that some of that crypto and some of the big name trades and hopeful trades, those are very speculative people that are in them, and they normally would have been interested in looking at our sector more, and they've been kind of distracted and pulled away elsewhere.
Yeah, I mean, if you look at the valuations on tech stocks, they far exceed the what should be the real valuation, or a common 14 times earnings valuation, or PE of 14. So the nice thing right now is we really haven't seen a lift in the junior market, so that should be coming. We've seen a lift in the majors. I mean, Agnico Eagle is knocking it out of the park as far as their share price. But I spoke to their CEO years ago, and he was always quite discouraged about their share price. Well, they've had a double in the last year. That's trickling down into the producers, the smaller producers, and then that's going to trickle down into the explorers at some point. I still feel, given the cost of building a mine these days, that a good discovery is where the real value is going to be created. And that's what we've targeted for Regency Silver, is discovery, not development.
And that's what's very unique about your situation too, is that they all are Mexico. Like, this region very well, of Mexico very well. And we blew by something very quickly that I want to reiterate, not because I'm being overly promotional, but it is necessary, especially in this sector, that you've had, like, when I say 3 wins, the 3 projects that have become mines. That is a very small club that someone gets to be involved in, because it's like R&D. Most companies might find something. Is it economic? I don't know. But you've had 3 significant wins, and that should tell people something as well. And once again, 3 wins in Mexico. You're looking for same types of things.
Well, what's funny? I've been told that I've been lucky at Regency, and a certain amount of luck is definitely involved. But experience counts for a lot too. Like, being able to recognize what you've got, and recognizing that it's different.
Yes.
And I can honestly tell you that the Dios Padre project has the most potential of any project I've seen in the country. I had never been to Silvercrest. I would say they're one of the biggest success stories in the last 20 years, on a worldwide basis. Forget about Mexico. They've done very well. They're in Sonora. So they just got sold. So somebody, obviously it was at Newcrest that bought them. I think
Coeur
bought them. Yeah,
for $1.7 billion.
Yeah, so they have faith in Mexico. So the country's just got a wealth of mineralization, and we're in the right spot in that porphyry belt, extending down from the States. A good spot for big discoveries. When I first saw the copper, the chalcopyrite and pyrite in the core, I was convinced we were onto something big. But I tell you, the gold grades really surprised us. I just haven't seen those gold grades in Mexico. It's really astonishing to find, 55 meters of 5.3 grams of gold.
Yes.
It's a big structure.
And this is all shallow as well. That's open.
Well, we're open in all directions. We started out at the historic silver mine, which it might be that the silver mine is the anomaly, but we started off there. We drilled deeper down to 400 meters. We hit the gold zone at 400 meters, but there's a lot of potential going up dip now, because we started at 400 meters. So now we're going to go up dip. We're going to go along strike. We've got a big target just in the north part of our claim package. So we've got a lot of potential here. And, once the registry opens up too, we plan on getting more ground around us as well.
Well, that's also another interesting thing. Who are some of your neighbors, like adjacent and kind of close by, just so people get a sense of, okay, well, where are you? Are you out in the middle of nowhere, or who's near you?
Well, we have a lot of big companies around us. It's a real mining district. Agnico Eagle has La India just to the north of us. Mulatos is about 40 kilometers away. And Pan American Silver has Dolores. But we just found out recently that there's another big discovery at Oricevo, which is in Fresnillo, which is 115 kilometers to the southeast of us. And that looks like a very close analogy to the type of structure that we have at Dios Padre, which is a gold porphyry with a silica-rich cap. So what's probably happened here is there's been an expansion of the rock caused by pressure underneath, and then that expansion has cracked up all the rock, and some little fingers have come off, and That's where the high grade is in the fingers. But now we're focusing on finding the bigger body at in that cracked up rock. So at Arecibo, they've got 9.6 million ounces of gold. So that shows you the potential. That's the same type of system that we have at Dios Padre, a high sulfidation / porphyry system. So these types of systems are big. They're multi-million ounce systems. So that's what we're hoping for at Dios Padre. We just need to do more work.
Yeah.
We announced the financing in the summer. We should be closing off on some of that very soon. And then we'll finish it off before the end of the year, hopefully.
And on that note, if we'll put maybe we won't put your email up. You can reach out to me, and if you're interested, I can pass you along to Bruce. If you're interested in looking at what they're offering right now, raising money wise, because this is a very unique property. It's a very unique situation. I remember talking to you, Bruce, years ago now, when this first came out, and looked at the wins you've had, the accomplishments you've had in Mexico, what you saw, and then ask you like, well, what do you see with this? And you've been right. I mean, you said here's the thesis, here's what we're looking for. You got great results. Now the market hasn't been great, but the market's just the market. And I guess on that kind of note is, sometimes I look at this market and think it's kind of semi-private in a weird way. Like you don't necessarily get real-time accurate price data as to or market data on what you should be priced at. But if you find something, whether you're at 8 cents, 20 cents, 50 cents, you could be sold for $2, $3, $4 if you find something. The reflection of the price doesn't necessarily mean anything.
Yeah, the only restriction is just the capital available to do the work.
Yes.
So we should be drilling right now, but we're not. We could definitely have one drill turning full time on site. It just hasn't been available to us. I'd like to have 2 drills turning on site, but that's the challenge these days is fighting dilution.
Yes.
So, but at some point, this market's going to turn. I often say that the mining sector is either too difficult or too easy. And right now we're in the too difficult phase. But when you have a project like this, eventually it becomes almost too easy, where things just come your way. So you got to get through these spells, and then you get into a better market and things become much easier. But the main thing is the asset. I've often said this, you have to have a good asset. I mean, inexperienced management or bad management can mess up a good project.
Yeah.
But with the experience that I've had in the country, and our geologist Mike Tucker is a fantastic geologist. He's done a fantastic job. So we got a good crew on the ground that know how to explore and handle all the logistics. So we're in a good situation. We have good buy-in from the local community, which is very important in Mexico. I've often said that the biggest thing in Mexico is you have to be liked, and we've really got a good relationship with the community. They want us there. They want the jobs. So we've made a real effort to bring the community on side and inform them what we're doing.
That's another important thing and we ask people all the time, that can sometimes be overlooked, because people say, oh, well, I'm just focused on the numbers. I want to see the assays. And you go, okay, yeah, I get it. Everyone likes numbers. But you need to build those relationships. Otherwise, that could quash a deal very quickly as well. And whenever you put that time and effort in, especially up front, along with building your company, that goes a long way.
Sure. I mean, social license is very important. And I think people in British Columbia recognize that. They've had a lot of experience with it over the years. It's also important in Mexico. You have to become a member of the community. These are small towns. The closest town is 10 kilometers away from us. So we're actually in a really good area for mining. We won't have I won't have to buy a town, for example. But it is very important to have the locals informed and on side with what you're doing. So we really try to embed ourselves in the community. We have a house there, for example. We hire all local labor, and they're very experienced. So it's not a hardship for us because they've done exploration in the past.
So what are some of when you're looking at a property, because this, I mean, this is, I'm trying to ask you to distill your entire work life experience into a paragraph, but because you found 3 different mines, whenever you were first presented this project, what goes through your head? I mean, without, like, just for someone retail, they go, you need to look at this, 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 and this.
The first thing is grade. You have to have a good grade. And the old silver mine was 750 grams average. So that's important. And then you look at the width. You want to see that you've got a big structure.
Yeah.
So, you know, grade and width usually equals tonnage. So you got grade and tonnage, then you're off to the races. Now, it was also good here because there had been a lot of work done in the past by previous option holders. And we're no longer an option holder. We exercised the option 2 years ago. We own the project now 100%. So it was drilled by Silver Standard. It was drilled by First Majestic. And then some IP was run by a junior. But they were all focusing on the silver mine as being a vertical plug. And we looked at it and took a fresh perspective and said, wait a minute, the modeling software is telling us that this is a 45-degree dip to the north. So we looked at the IP. We said, okay, this is a copper target, not a silver target. So you got silver, you got copper. You know, you got a real good shot at something bigger because you don't get a lot of good copper targets in Mexico. Yeah. And, you know, right where we thought it would be, we hit on our very first hole, which saves you a lot of money and a lot of dilution for your next programs. And then bang, we just been drilling off some beautiful hits since then. We got a much better understanding of the project and we're gaining more understanding. So when you have copper with the gold like this, you got something big. You don't get the copper that we've got without having something big feeding it all. And we know there's a porphyry there because we actually hit a porphyry. If we'd gone looking for this project, we would not have found it. I mean, seriously. So it's it's a combination of experience, skill, luck, call it what you want, but it's there. We found it.
Yes. See, and hearing that kind of certainty, that if that doesn't get people a little bit excited from someone who has experience, who, you know, that it goes a very long way. And in all, what do you call fairness, I do own shares, so people should be aware of that. But I would like to write from day one, because once again, what you brought to the table, who you are, and that you can't fake when someone really feels that they're onto something and they've had success before, and that comes across like very clear. And then, of course, all the results. And once again, it doesn't matter what the stock does, especially from our perspective, is that we look for like winners, and they don't happen in 3 months. I mean, if they do, then sell. Like if something shoots up in 3 months, I'm out. Like, oh God, let's run. We want to find projects that they're going to become something, and that takes a bit of time and money and R&D and whatnot. And it's what's so exciting about this, and also frustrating about this sector, is that you have companies that are down. I think you guys are down at 10 or 12 cents. That have no business being that low. I'm not giving financial advice, but for the drill holes for the assays, just go look. Just go take a peek at the numbers. I mean, just go look at them. It's an opportunity. And we kind of talked on, maybe it's people got spooked about Mexico. Whatever the reason is, it's left a big opportunity open for people if they're looking for projects and they're looking for someone who's close to someone who's already mining, and who wants a team that has a great project and has done this before.
Yeah, I mean, this has potential to be a big mine someday. And that's another thing you're looking for. What is the potential to be something that a major would want? And this certainly has that kind of potential.
And once again, just reiterating that when you say that means like the width, the scope, the scale, the tonnage, because you could find something that was, a couple 100,000 ounces that was high grade. And you go, well, is this economic? I don't know. A big one really wants to find something that they can sink their teeth in and spend the amount of money that's going to require. So like, what kind of scale is that?
Well, we're looking at least at a good shot at 2.5 million ounces.
Yeah.
It used to be 5, but there's not very many 5 million ounce gold deposits out there anymore. No. So you have to have potential if you don't want to develop the mine yourself, if you want to develop the mine yourself, you're talking 1 million ounces plus of gold. If you're talking about selling it, you want to have potential for 2.5 million ounces. And the sooner you can get close to that, the better off you are.
What are some of the is silver also, is that more of kind of byproduct? Because there's not a lot of pure silver plays. Does it usually come kind of like that someone becomes a major silver producer kind of by proxy of being a copper company or a gold company?
You don't usually find the copper and the silver together. You might find more copper gold.
Yep.
But in this instance, it looks like the silver is a separate event. Now, we should find more of these levels of silver. So just as a simple geology lesson, one of those little fingers that came off of the porphyry, that's where the gold has come out. And when I say little, I mean it's 100 meters in width.
Yeah.
We have no idea how long it is yet, but it's at least 350 meters, probably longer. As the fluids come up, they probably hit the water table and cooled. And then you have these successive pulses of mineralization. The silver is in one of those pulses. So we should have a lot more silver there as well. We just got to figure out where it has come up. So I mean, big potential for lots of silver ounces. We've got an 11 million ounce silver resource there right now, but that looks like we're only scratching the surface of what we've actually got. The gold, multi-million ounces of potential. And the copper, we really don't have much of an idea yet about the copper. It should get, judging by the core that we've got, we should get high grade copper as we go deeper. So lots of potential here and something big feeding all this.
See, that's I like all three of those, and I like everyone wants size and scope as well. And what's your take on the future of Mexico? Like what do you think is going to happen here? And do you think a lot of it was just that people got spooked?
What I see happening right now is they have to amend the mining law to make it more user friendly. I think that's the first step. They've stopped any rhetoric surrounding open pit mining, so that's a positive. And then they have to open up the registry again, because the registry was effectively, a lot of the registries, the bureaucracy was effectively shut down under the former president. So I think we have to see, a kind of a reopening of the bureaucracy, and that will send a very strong message to the public that Mexico is open for mining again. I don't see any ideological reason to be against mining. I mean, mining provides really good paying jobs to small communities that need those jobs. There's very few cash jobs available to them. They're on subsistence farming in a lot of these places. So we don't need any government subsidies. We're not asking for any government subsidies. The mining industry has cleaned up its act when it comes to the environment. So overall, there's no reason to be anti-mining anywhere, really. I mean, it's just one of those talking points that a lot of people kind of come up with. But mining is a real benefit. I mean, I grew up in Timmins. When you fly over Timmins, which has been mining for a century, you can barely see the footprint that the mines have made. And if you flew over a couple of miles to the east or west, you wouldn't notice it at all. They've reforested the old tailings areas, so it's a very small footprint in relation to the amount of benefit that you extract. The only issue is that it's an extractive industry, and some people get worked up about that. But if you don't extract it, you just leave it in the ground. So you might as well extract it. People need metals. The central banks are buying gold hand over fist. That's what's driving the price of gold up. They need copper. You need steel. You need all kinds of metals. You need rare earths and other metals for your cell phones. Silver for the solar industry. Actually, gold's a much better conductor, but it's
too expensive.
Too expensive. So yeah, you need metals. I think that anybody who's anti-mining is anti-metal.
Well, also, I would argue they're also anti any kind of energy transition. They're not actually for it if they don't want to do it. It's like, well, you're not really for this energy transition then if you don't want mining.
Sure. I mean, copper is going to be in big demand from that, silver, and who knows what the next big metal is going to be. It might be nickel. It might be,
Yeah.
zinc. It could be, who knows what it could be. Maybe some rare earth that we don't really think of right now, but, graphite, I'm hearing, or graphene are important.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
there's all kinds of different functions for the, what comes out of these mines.
You
But for
made
me,
okay.
I like gold, silver, and copper, and mainly gold and silver.
Yeah, and then once again, what I encourage people to go look on your website to go look at the assays. I mean, like over the years, this isn't us just pulling stuff of smoke. These are great assay results, and that needs to be stated just right openly. And
Yeah,
that's
they're the best I've seen in the country. I
yeah,
haven't seen two. Actually, last year there were two projects that were ahead of us as far as grams per meter. Our last hole was our best hole. That was 296 gram meters of gold.
wow.
And that is the third highest grade project in the country. And that's on an exploration hole, not an infill hole, an
Yeah.
exploration hole. So as we go to the southeast, we should find more of that because it's in a big system.
Maybe actually tell, like, because we do have a lot of people that we try to reach brand new people and get them excited about mining. Maybe explain to them what an exploration hole, how it's different than a development hole. Just give them a little bit of flavor.
Well, when you have sufficient data, a lot of times you'll drill in a circle or a square, and every 25 meters you'll have a data point. So you'll have a drill hole every 25 or 50 meters. And that's when you're doing infill drilling. You're trying to develop a resource. You're trying to get a block model. And then you can kind of do a little cone around your drill hole, and you can go 50 meters. And that's how you get a resource. If you really want to tighten it up and get a reserve, then you go 25 meters. But for us, we're doing step out drilling. This is raw exploration. We have no idea, apart from the fact we're drilling into a big structure that has already exhibited very high gold grades. We don't, and the fact we're we know we're in a big system here as well because we're in a breccia. We're just doing pure exploration. We're not infill drilling. Everything we find is new.
Yeah.
So we don't have the parameters. We don't have a square built up yet. We're going straight along a line to find out what we've got. So that's a whole different mentality than just doing methodical infill drilling and having your geologist log the core. We're using our brain power. We're using our experience to tell us where to go next.
And with these porphyry systems as well, for someone who's newer, give them a sense as to the scale of what that means as well. That might help people too.
Porphyries are generally quite large. It's just a function of how deep are they.
Yes.
We feel that the porphyry here should be above the 1,000-meter zone. And once you get down below that, you're talking about an underground mine past, probably past 100 meters anyway, if you don't have it on surface. Our present thesis is that we're more in an Arecibo type of system because we do have indications of the high silica, and that means we're probably talking about some type of a gold structure that's been formed by the porphyry. Rather than the porphyry itself. Although the porphyry, we do have some areas of porphyry here that are mineralized. The silver mine, for example, the porphyry has come up and it's got grade, it's got high silver grades, and there's high copper grades in the porphyry. So when the porphyry comes in, it can drag mineralization along with it. So we got a lot of work to do here. We got gold, copper, silver, high grade silver, high grade gold, high grade copper in certain areas. So we got a lot of work to do, but we were looking for where the open pit might be, and we think we found it in the silica rich area right around where we've been drilling. So I'd love to poke a few holes in there. We might do that in the new year.
Well, that'd be very cool. Now, because you've had these wins over periods of time, what role has technology played, like mapping, all these new techniques that have come out? Has that been a real game changer in the last, say, 20 years or so? Like, how has that helped you find targets to kind of hit targets?
Well, the biggest change has been in the modeling software. Leapfrog software is far superior to whatever we had before. The graphics we can produce now are so much more clear. It really helps you when you can do a block model and show where the grade is. It really helps you hone in on where to drill next. So that's been a big advancement, just the clarity of the modeling software. For example, the old exploration people thought that this was a vertical plug. Well, looking at what they were drilling, sure, I could see why they would think that. And the modeling software they had, when we ran it through new modeling software, you could clearly see that the grade was angling 45 degrees to the north. So you've got to drill, you got to drill 45 degrees to the south to hit into that. And that's where we hit. So that's a big plus. And the IP is much more clear as well. The IP is better. So the results of the work you do are better displayed graphically. So it's much easier to figure out where to go next. It really gives you a good lead.
Yes. And I wanted to ask that because sometimes people look and they go, well, I don't understand. Like, how did you get the property when First Majestic didn't find anything on it? Or how did you get this property? You hear that quite often. And even when I first got into the sector, I'd think, well, like if someone already poked and put $20 million into this, or it was a mine and it's no longer a mine, like what could there be there? Is that for someone new, they don't realize there could be a lot still there.
Well, all the projects I've had have been old mines.
Yeah.
And where you find the new mine is right beside the old mine.
Yeah.
So, I mean, at Continuum, there actually was a guy mining it. He was allowed to mine 10,000 tons a year during the option period. And he opened up the system beautifully. Without his work, it would have taken a lot more to open up to turn it into the mine that it became. At Timmins Gold, we just looked at the old cross sections and picked it up at a very opportune time. With Dios Padre, we could see that there was something different about the IP and the silver mine that they hadn't really tested. There was something that was different about it. For example, the silver mine shouldn't have been there with the copper IP anomaly. So there was something about it that led us to believe there was a bigger system there, probably copper. But as I said, the amount of gold in the system has been a very pleasant surprise for us. We weren't expecting that because I haven't seen that in the entire country. I haven't seen a intercept of, well, I guess there's a couple out there because I said we were third best last year. But
yeah,
overall, I mean, it's a spectacular discovery. I haven't seen a discovery like this in 10 years for sure.
That's big to hear. That's big news. And I like to reiterate too, like when people ask like, well, concerns, what about this? What about that? Is there's no way that deal would have been done with Coeur if they didn't feel that Mexico is open to business, that they are going to be able to develop this further, that they are going to be able to put out ounces and grow substantially. Unless they felt quite positive. And I imagine, like, I'm not trying to tell the future, that they probably speak to government quite often.
Yeah, sure. I'm sure they've got their people, they've got their lobbyists, and they've got people that are in the know. Look, I think Mexico is going to open up very nicely for mining. It's not even closed now, but I think the perception is going to change about the country. And when it does, you're going to see any kind of Mexico discount come off the stocks. So certainly Mexico is a great jurisdiction for mining, and it's going to prove itself up here to continue to be a great jurisdiction. I mean, I love the country. It's so easy to work there. You can drive a pickup truck to any site you need.
Yes.
Paved highway to within 20 kilometers of the site. We've got a house. You get good food. You get good beer. It's great place to work. It really is. You got power. You got an internet. I mean, what more do you need? I can watch the Leafs lose on our PVR, so it's our satellite.
And you don't have to deal with frozen land, tundra, or snow drifts.
Well, yeah, I mean, look at Northern Ontario, for example. There's a reason why I'm not working up in Northern Ontario,
Yes.
where I'm from. It's because it's difficult to work up there. There's a
Yes.
lot of cover on everything. In Mexico, you can drill down 10 feet and see most of what's happening, or you can take samples from surface. There's a lot of surface evidence in Mexico, which is going to really stand it in good stead over the years. It's really inexpensive to work there on a worldwide basis.
That's also what I was kind of getting to, is that your cost of business, and then taking into account right now with like inflation being high, if anyone's looking for projects, they're going to be looking, oh, like how much would it cost to start a brand new mine or to restart one? Or then also you found something that's close to someone else who's already producing. These factors all become very critical, especially when you start hitting really good numbers.
Yeah, we don't plan on sticking around that long.
No, I know.
We just want to drill and sell. I've been through the development phase before, and it takes a while.
Yeah.
That Lassonde curve is accurate. When you start to get into production, you don't get any bump in your share price. You don't get any bump in your stock.
Yeah.
You're there for 2 years, raising money, building, while the market sees what you're up to. So we don't plan to do that. And when you turn it on, you invariably have growing pains as well. I mean, I've been through it. You don't just turn it on and it works perfectly, especially with a mill. Now, I don't think this would be an expensive mine if somebody wanted to build it. I think that the nature of the deposit, the fact that it's in a big system, would lend itself to bulk tonnage underground mining. And hopefully we've found out where an open pit could be, like at Orosimo. So, certainly, there's a potential here for an open pit. At La Caridad, they had a high grade copper zone, and then right beside it is the copper open pit. So the plan here is to start looking for that at sometime soon. We need to do some more mapping and sampling in the district as well. So there's certainly a regional play here.
Yeah, and once again, setting that standard, having someone who's done these deals before, knowing what majors look for, like what's needed in a deal. I mean, that goes a long way as well. It's one thing to understand Mexico, but also knowing, like, to make a deal possible. Like when you did your first one, did it go smoothly? Like with either one of them.
Well, with San Jose, it went smoothly.
Yeah.
But we had to hand over the reins because Fortuna had the mine building experience. They had a very good team. I mean, right now I could build the team if we really had to build the mine there. I could build the team up. I've got the experience now to do that.
Yeah.
But certainly 20 years ago was a different story. I learned a lot at Timmins Gold with processing and the metrics of mining and what it takes. Did a lot of site visits as well with a lot of underground mines. So I've learned a lot about the industry over the last 20 years. It's funny, you think you know a fair bit, but then you get into operations, and operations are a whole different thing.
Yes.
Well, actually, operations are nice as long as you're making money.
Yeah.
It's when you're losing money and you get put on death watch that
yes. Problem. Yeah, people try to cut down costs, and you're like, wait a second, you want me to try to more?
Yeah, you're changing your mine plan every month. That's not easy.
Well, tell me, okay, so just kind of to wrap this up, what kind of mindset of a person then do you think gets involved in this? Because this is not an easy business. It just isn't. Like, what drew you to it? Why do you think you've had success? And what is it that if someone's looking at this kind of space and they're curious, what would you tell them as a human being, as how they have their temperament or their mindset? What are some of the things that you have that you think you could pass on to someone?
Well, I think the first thing is you have to look at the cycle. We're clearly not at the top of the cycle right now. I think all these markets go in cycles, and the U.S. market has had a long run since 2009. So they're overdue for some type of a major correction. They're pretty good in the States at keeping the party going. So we'll see how that works out.
Yeah.
But certainly in the mining sector, you need to look at good assets. You need to have a bit of patience because we're still early in the market. when everybody's talking about gold stocks, and it's probably time to sell them. But for now, I would say patience is the most. Patience is required right now until this market starts to move a bit higher in the correct direction. We've already seen higher prices of the metals, so the market's going to follow here at some point.
Excellent. Well, it was a real pleasure speaking to you. We're bullish about what's happening in Mexico. That especially when we saw that deal go through, we thought, okay, this is a very good metric or kind of snapshot of what's to come. And then we quickly go through our list and database of who's doing what if people have and what projects are looking good. And you definitely came to mind to someone who has had a lot of success, knows what they're looking for in this specific region. I think that's also key, is knowing this region, what you're looking for. When you see something, you think, oh, I've got something. We really wanted to kind of have you on so you could express that to people so they can get a sense of what you see from all your experience and what you're developing.
Yeah, well, I can tell you one thing. This is a very special project that it's going to prove up. I'm quite positive about that.
Excellent. Well, Regency Silver, and once again, Bruce Bragagnolo, the executive chairman, reach out to me. We're going to do a little write-up on it on our blog as well, and we'll have some info in there. And we can directly to Bruce as well if you have interest in the financing they're doing. It's a very interesting opportunity. And once again, this go take a look at their assays. That's all I have to say. If you have any issues, reach out to me. I can send you thoughts as to comparisons and everything else as well. But Bruce, we really appreciate your time, and thanks so much for talking to us about the state of mining, where you think things are going, and how you think Mexico's looking.
Thanks, Andrew. Thanks for having me on.
Have a good one. We'll talk to you again soon.
See ya. Yeah, bye.
Bye-bye.